It's a windy day today. You're watching Kinotika. I'm Dave Altizer, and this is a GoPro Hero 6 and 5 comparison video. I'm here in Nashville in the Centennial Park testing the GoPro Hero 5 and 6. A couple of months ago, GoPro released the GoPro Hero 6. We already did a review of the camera, but in this video, we're gonna be comparing the Hero 6 Black with last year's model, the Hero 5 Black. Now, the Hero 5 Black was a great camera, but it had some downfalls. The image stabilization wasn't very good. You couldn't do any slow motion in 4K. So I'm excited to test these two cameras out and see how they perform. For the most part, we are shooting baked in the normal GoPro profile. However, we do switch to Pro Tune for a couple of shots to see how the dynamic range holds up. I've put the two cameras as close to each other as possible. This is an old battery grip that I had laying around, and I gaff taped the cameras to the battery grip, so it's a little bit of a jank setup, but it'll get the job done. Before we begin the review, let me just say that the Hero 5 we were using had a horrible hardware failure. In the highlights were these zebra pattern type lines. It's awful. I contacted GoPro about this issue, and they're sending us a brand new version. But for this video review, just ignore the lines on the GoPro Hero 5. Right now we're shooting 4K at 24 frames per second in the wide field of view. We're shooting Pro Tune. I'm also going to be color grading that Pro Tune image so that you can kind of see what that looks like flat like this, and with the color grade now. Boom. One of the great things about the new GoPro Hero 6 is actually the image stabilization. I talked about the image stabilization in my go-kart review, but let's put this to the test with the Hero 5. Now, the Hero 5 does not do image stabilization in 4K, unlike the GoPro Hero 6, so that alone is already a big comparison. You can use the optical image stabilization in the wide field of view at 24 frames per second in 4K on the 6. If that's something that's important to you, that's already a reason to get the 6. So I just switched both cameras to 2.7K in the wide field of view. I have image stabilization turned on. I'm just gonna handhold the two cameras. Let's see how it looks. So right now I'm testing the image stabilization on both cameras. I'm holding both lenses as close to each other as possible. Let's see how it looks. I wanted to test the difference between the 5 without image stabilization and the 6 with it. In this image you can see on the left the Hero 5 with no image stabilization and the Hero 6 on the right with image stabilization. This is really a huge game changer because it turns your average shot into a very professional, cinematic, smooth shot. Shots that you could only achieve using a gimbal or post-stabilization. I could see this type of stabilization being very handy for vloggers and people who are doing selfie mode a lot. See how the electronic image stabilization looks on the 6 and on the 5. One thing to note, on the 2.7K mode with the image stabilization turned on, you get a 5% crop on the new 6 and you get a 10% crop on 5. Slight amount of croppage going on there, but if you need a little bit more room in your frame, it's a big consideration. For slow motion, the GoPro Hero 6 can record 4K at up to 60 frames per second. However, it records in an H.265 codec, which right now on my laptop is not supported. Because I don't want to update my firmware yet on my Mac, I had to convert the footage to ProRes. This is 4K at 60 frames. As you can see, I am a total doofus, but the 4K at 60 frames per second really is nice. You don't get any image stabilization with 4K at 60. Here we're shooting maximum frame rates at this resolution at 2.7K. The 120 frames per second 2.7K mode is also in H.265. The GoPro Hero 6 can record a maximum frame rate at up to 240 frames per second in 1080p. The image quality is not very good. You can see a lot of moire and aliasing going on all over the image. It also records in the H.265 codec, so you're going to need to convert it unless you're running a modern operating system. Time-lapse video is a feature that GoPros have had for a while, and it's something that a lot of users use. Both the Hero 5 and Hero 6 performed well in the 4K time-lapse video mode. As far as still images are concerned, both cameras shoot at a maximum of 12 megapixels. You can shoot in both JPEG and GoPro RAW. Here you can see how much I've pushed the image in post using the RAW files. The Hero 6 definitely has less noise and more dynamic range. One of the great things about the Hero 6 is that it kept the same body style as the Hero 5, which was great. It has a USB-C port and an HDMI port that can be accessed through the case if you take the latch off. It's not waterproof anymore when you do this, but it sure is convenient to charge, using just a standard battery pack that you would use to charge your phone. The touchscreen didn't seem any better than the 5 did, which isn't great, but it's not like an old Android phone from 2010. So here's the big question, should you buy a GoPro Hero 6? To answer that question, you need to answer these questions that I have for you. Are you using an action camera on a daily basis or a weekly basis because it's what you do for work, or you're an athlete, or do high intense sports? Then yes, go for the new camera, sell your old model, and make it happen. Do you own a GoPro Hero 5? The GoPro Hero 5 has great image quality, it's a very good camera, and honestly, to the naked eye, most people won't really know the difference. But if that image stabilization is really important to you, then I would say go ahead and get the 6, because it will really make your shots look so much better, so much smoother, and so much more usable. If you're a GoPro user and you have a 4, or before that a 3 or a 2, or God forbid a version 1, that thing was a brick, then absolutely get the Hero 6. I highly recommend it. It's the only GoPro that I have been excited about in the last 2 or 3 years. I've been using GoPro since day 1, and I skipped the Hero 5. The Hero 6 now is a very refined iteration of the 5. In my opinion, it's almost kind of like how Apple does with the S models. The Hero 6 is fantastic. Be sure to hit that subscribe button, and please share this video with your friends. We're a new channel and we're just getting started. We need your help to grow. Thanks for watching. See you next time.